that is all the stuff that's in chapter 4. And so we have A World from Dust, chapters 4 through 6, that sort of goes along with these different things. And I want to bring out some things that showed up in chapters 4 through 6 that end up showing us what's going on with, that end up connecting Atkins. So I'm going to show you the Atkins relationships here, okay? Now remember that we had the second law of thermodynamics. It says that the entropy of the universe is always increasing. That means if you have a plot of entropy versus time, it's going to have a positive slope. The one thing that it doesn't say, realize that it doesn't say that the entropy of the universe is at its possible maximum. It just says that it's always increasing. It doesn't say anything about what the maximum is. And that's a good thing, because if you have a system that's been maximized in entropy, it can't do any work. In a sense, if it's maximized in the entropy, it's already at its minimum of free energy. And if you're at your minimum of free energy, you can't get any more free energy out of it. You can't change the system and get any more free energy out of it. So remember that work and entropy are connected. You can only do work by increasing the entropy of the universe. And we had that one graph that had the S that was sort of an arch shape, and it had G that was sort of a U shape. And those were exact mirror images of each other. So remember that when we're talking about free energy, we're talking about entropy of the universe as well. This has to do, there's some of this in A World from Dust when it talks about entropy and stuff like that. I tried to keep too much of it out of it, but it does have some kind of cool implications. And the main thing is the Earth itself increases entropy. If you think about the sun, the reason why we can have all these things that decrease entropy on the face of the Earth is that the Earth itself, just by existing, increases entropy quite a bit. The way it works is that the sun gives off low entropy, high energy photons. They're really high energy. The wavelengths are closer together. One of the ways you can think about this is the Earth spreads out these photons, and that increases the entropy. So a few high energy photons come in, many low energy photons come out. More entropy over here. The sun is 6,000 K, the Earth is 260 K. Part of this is the difference in temperatures, okay? But the thing is, we can have plants that take in the high energy photons, and they can build complex structures, and it's okay if those structures decrease entropy a little bit, because we have entropy increasing so much going the other way. And also, everything that takes in energy gets hot. It's releasing, remember that heat is actually photons. Heat is actually lower energy photons than visible light. Infrared is that kind of thing. And everything alive, definitely animals more than anything else, but everything alive, everything that even organizes information gets hot as a result. And it's actually part of the cost of organizing the information, okay? Notice that I don't define information. It's a very tricky term to actually talk about with chemistry, but we can talk about entropy as a number. It's much easier to talk actually about entropy with numbers than information with numbers. But all that is to say, this has to do with all the talk in A World from Dust with the idea that the sun is so important. It's giving us energy, and if it wasn't for the sun, we wouldn't be able to have life. So we can actually take advantage of this as well. This is a cool little solar device that takes advantage of this spreading out of energy. And it kind of is like a little model of the Earth. It harnesses light and heat from the sun. So look at what happens. What they did is they actually have a solar cell, but instead of just having one, they layered 3 things on top of each other. And the things is that you put the thing that uses the highest energy wavelengths, the least spread out wavelengths on the top. The wavelengths that spread out a little more get harnessed by the next layer, and the wavelengths that spread out a little more get harnessed by the next layer. All 3 of those, like the UV gets caught by a solar cell, the visible light gets caught by a photothermal device. Basically, it's a colored device that just basically absorbs the visible light and gets hot. And then there's and then there's another layer that has a different photothermal layer that works that's colored in the infrared region. Each of these takes light that's less spread out and spreads it out all the way to far infrared, which is otherwise known as heat. And this can do work. This is a solar cell that can take sunlight, change the high energy photons to low energy photons. The difference between that can be pulled off and it can be used as energy. So this is actually part of what's a thread that runs through a world from dust when we talk about things like energy rate density. That has to do with this. It's about spreading out sunlight to heat. And the difference between those is entropy based at its heart. Okay, so the hard part of this is bringing all three components together to be able to have light and heat being able to transfer through the device. But once they've done that, it's actually it's a much more efficient device because it's kind of 3-in-1. It's able to access or pull energy from 3 parts of the spectrum. And if you can do that, what comes out at the other end is always heat, because that's the spread out form of energy. And remember that heat is, you can't run an engine based on heat. You can't run, heat is random motion, and so it's hard to pull directed motion out of random motion. So somebody has a really crazy idea to do this on a planetary level. They want to actually harvest renewable energy. So remember this right here? Many low energy photons coming out. What if we could catch something that would catch these and spread them out? Couldn't we get energy from that? Well, somebody got the idea to do exactly that. They say put an antenna up in space, okay? And whenever you have energy flowing from hotter to colder, there's an opportunity to harvest renewable energy. In a sense, it's taking the Earth's waste heat, spreading that out even more, collecting it with a big antenna. And they found out that, there's 10 to the 17th watts of infrared thermal radiation continuously emitted into cold outer space. The idea is to have something that could catch that and spread it out even more. And so they have a way to do that. And I just want to point out that in this paper, they show the antenna. Okay, they show the antenna, but they show it relative to the idea that you have a cold region and a hot region, and an engine runs off this thermal difference between them, or this energetic difference between them. Their idea is that you can get energy out of this on the Earth. The antenna does this same thing. It's between something hot and something cold, and spreading out energy from the hot thing to go into the cold thing. And they even have something that looks like, this is a good physical chemistry image of an engine, and I have to show you. You can just barely see it at the bottom. See, heat comes in, goes to the cold, and the cold is the sky in this case. Work comes out. You can harvest work as you spread out energy from hot to cold. I just think it's cool. It's technically a rectenna rather than an antenna. I'm not sure what the difference is, but yeah.